Hello, welcome to the Made for Video podcast. I have Ella on today. I am 95% sure that everyone in my audience will be aware of who Ella is, the fitness psych. But for anyone who isn't quite aware, give me a quick intro into who you are, what you do, who you help, and all that other fun stuff.
All that jazz. Okay, cool. I'm Ella. I'm a psychologist, so undergrad, masters, currently completing a doctorate in sport and exercise psychology. But really, I work with online coaches, online like PTs, nutritionists to help them with client adherence and client retention because they've got this skill set in nutrition and fitness. But sometimes when we ask clients to do stuff, they don't do it right. Or if we want to run a successful business, we need to have a high retention rates. And so that's where the psychology comes in. And that's how I help coaches effectively.
I love that. I love that. I mean, when I was an online coach, that was probably my biggest peeve out of everything was clients coming in and leaving quickly because of adherence, actually.
Yeah.
That was like one of the main things. And I'd always be chasing my tail to try and get new clients when actually the impact that I was trying to have was with the clients that I had, but I couldn't because it was like that adherence thing.
Yeah.
Found out with like a lot of coaches.
I think like the way I see it is the only way to have a business that is sustainable, the only way to be really fulfilled in what you do and to have balance in your life is to focus on retention. Because if all you're doing is generating leads and getting new people in, but everybody's falling out, then you're going to have to constantly be in that cycle of like, crap, I need to get more clients in. It's really stressful and it's not fulfilling when you have clients leaving and you don't build that relationship. So for me, the key is let's get you enough clients so that you have that financial stability, but then let's make sure that you can keep them so that you can build strong relationships, so you can really make a difference in their life, and so that you can grow your business rather than one in one out type thing.
Amazing. That's like, yeah. I mean, thinking back to when I was a coach again, like if I had that advice, then that would have been like invaluable to me because I remember it was like, I mean, this what we're doing now is essentially a social media and video podcast. So, but it's for coaches, right? So we're going to apply it to social media and all that stuff. But I see a lot of coaches now, and I don't know whether you find this, you can give me your sort of perspective on it, that are spending way too much time either creating content, trying to slip into people's DMs, open conversations with people, doing all this stuff for the business, which in a sense is and sometimes right, but doing more of that than the actual coaching itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Which is
exactly.
like, to me, it's like,
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm noticing. And I think like a lot of coaches will come to me because they're feeling stressed or they're not loving coaching anymore and they're feeling like quitting. And that comes from that. It comes from what they love is the coaching, but what they're spending their time doing is social media. And like you said, like it's really, really important. You have to do it. It's a part of your role, but the coaching comes first. That's what they enjoy. That's what they're good at. That's why they got into the game in the first place. And so, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
yeah. I mean, if we relate it to social media, I mean, I think probably there are some pros and cons to it in a sense that um, when we're on social media, we're present, we're giving our message to people, we are giving value. I mean, that's a kind of a cliche phrase now, isn't it? We're giving value, we're helping people, but at the same time, it is a constant scroll hole of, and it can absorb every ounce of you in the sense of you're just consuming. But at the same time, you don't want it to take away from that coaching experience. At the end of the day, if you're a coach, I'm gathering that you want to be in front of people coaching, not constantly comparing yourself to what other coaches are doing or trying to create better content because you think you need to stand out more. Whereas actually the content marketing side of it isn't. It's important to market yourself, obviously, but how can I put it? It's like you don't want to overconsume yourself with creating this stuff because at the same time, it's just you're not that. You're not. I suppose by default you are a content creator, but essentially you're a coach.
Yeah.
It's not like you're I'm getting lost in my brain here.
No.
Like a
I think for
like
me, there's like
a
a way I look at it is that sometimes people can confuse marketing with just Instagram. Like Instagram is just one method of hundreds of different methods that you can use to generate interest and understanding of your services. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to bring awareness of your services, right? And I think sometimes coaches think that that means that you have to become this big influencer on Instagram and that's the only way, and it becomes really stressful when actually you've got client referrals. If you do great results, all your clients know people that you can speak to. You've got in-person people that you can talk to. You know people in your circle that you can coach. Instagram might be like top of the funnel, but there are many other ways that you can also get people into your business. And actually,
yeah. I suppose that yeah. Go on.
no,
Sorry.
and I was just going to say, like, most successful businesses don't rely on just Instagram as their whole marketing strategy. It's just a
Yeah.
piece of the puzzle.
100%. 100%. I suppose that's what I was trying to say was, you know, you look at these like sort of big coaching influencer types, and when I got into it, it was like just kind of like the start of YouTube and the start of the YouTube fitness influencer types. So I was watching this content and thinking, well, this guy's got, you know, thousands of followers, he's making traveling the world, making tons of money, and it's easy for the day-to-day coach to be like, I need to do that stuff. Whereas actually, what they need to be doing is just coaching because they're really good coaches. And I suppose it gets into this like comparison and almost like, I don't want to say imposter syndrome, but like almost like I need to be like that, not the good coach that I need to be.
Yeah, I think I'm massive on people need to understand their strengths. Like if somebody's got a massive following on social media, it's quite likely that they enjoy doing that stuff. They might enjoy creating content. That's a creative part of their personality. They enjoy
Yeah,
performing to some extent, being really creative. And some coaches aren't like that. And so it feels like a huge struggle and it feels like hitting your head against a brick wall. I mean, if it feels like that, then you're not going to be able to grow because it's not your skill set. But there are numerous other things that you could do that is really aligned with who you are. That's much more better use of your time, if you will. So I think we agree with that.
definitely, definitely. And then I suppose the next question following on from that is, what role does psychology and fitness psychology specifically play a role in that, in the sense of helping the coach stay aligned with who they are authentically and what they want to be?
I think it's really important. So I have like a 3-pillared approach. So my whole thing is I want coaches to make an impact because that's what they're in the game for. I want them to, make an impact. I want them to feel fulfilled and I want them to be financially secure so they can have the life they want. That's the 3 things I care about. Now I think the way to do that is first and foremost, you need to be an excellent coach. So you have to have outstanding coaching skills. I also think you have to have a really amazing offer, like something that when people join your program, it feels brilliant to be coached by you. And that's something that I work on. But then my third pillar that is so important is like the coach has to have personal mastery. And that's why we will spend time, finding their clarity, finding what they care about. Because as a coach, you're a person first. And so you have to be feeling good in yourself. You have to know what direction you're going in, and everything else stems from there, basically.
I love that. I love that. Um, I love that they have to be like that. I mean, I suppose that word like authenticity gets thrown around a bit now. And I hear it all the time: be authentic, be yourself. Da, da, da. And it's true. It is true because you. I think I heard this thing. It's like if you're not authentic and you're not yourself, even if you're 1% removed from that, you're never really going to be able to target where you can improve and also work on what you're strong at as well.
Yeah.
Because it's always missing the mark because it's not quite who you are.
Exactly.
And that's what I found when I was coaching. I mean, I got to a point where I love coaching. Like coaching to me is like it changed my life. Like being a coach and having coaches as well. Like 100%, I wouldn't be here speaking to you now if I didn't have coaches or I wasn't a coach. But that said, it's that thing of when I got into video, it was like how like that part of me was like, okay, there's something more now which I can sort of transition into, rather than fitness coaching. But most people who are going to watch this podcast are fitness coaches or fat loss coaches who are really, really good, who might have a small following. and they're like striving to be something else, when actually what they should be working on is just themselves.
Yeah, and it's knowing what you enjoy. And I think the important thing is knowing what success looks like for you. We are constantly surrounded by everybody else and all these messages about what success should be. And, Alex Hormozy thinks this, David Goggins thinks this person thinks that. Whereas what we don't spend enough doing is, what do we think? What feels like success to us? What makes you light up? What energizes you? And I think that's where we need to spend time doing that, because then if a coach realizes, hang on a minute, I actually love serving a small number of clients and really helping them, and I love it when they text me saying that their life's been changed, no, I love that. Well, that's great. Then you don't need to necessarily be working on the weekends and grinding it out and producing 3 pieces of content a day. Like, you don't need to do that. You're already doing what you love to do. And so I think, yeah, making sure you're on your own path, not somebody else's path. And what you were saying earlier about, trying to be like somebody else, you can't just copy an influencer, because they're being themselves. That's why they're being successful. You're only ever going to be the best version of you. You can't be like a second version of somebody else.
Definitely, 100%. I got told this analogy once, and it always stuck with me, and I still think about it to this day. It's like, imagine a tree growing out the ground. The tree grows up, and it grows the branches, and it becomes a beautiful tree. And that's what you can see. But the actual tree is actually the small part of it. The roots under the ground, which you can't see, things that you've internally that you've got to work on, they're the strong part. All the branches could break at some point, but the roots underneath are very unlikely to break, because they're the strong thing. They're the things that are sort of the foundations that's cementing it into the ground. So actually, the deeper the roots, the stronger the tree. And that's like the internal, external, what you see on social media. And this is like, through my lens, it's manifested in, you might see someone with 100,000 followers doing, like, looking really good in terms of content, and they've got the right lights and da. But actually they can't sell anything, and they're poor coaches. Whereas you get someone with maybe 1,000, 2,000 followers, and they've got 90% engagement. They've got really good quality leads coming through, people coming to business who really suit them, and they're able to really help them better, because they've done that work, they've done that internal work. Whereas the vanity side of it, which is, I'm not saying if a large following necessarily equals poor coaches, but generally, I've met people, but as I've gotten to different networks, I've met people who have large followings but really struggle to make an income of any sort. Whereas I know really solid coaches who've got smaller followings and do really, really well.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, follower size doesn't correlate with income, doesn't correlate with skill set. It just correlates with your ability to market and how well you can play the game. And I think there's this understanding as well, is that coaches want to be themselves and they want to express their viewpoints, but actually you just have to play the game on each different site, right? Instagram, you got to play the Instagram game. If you're on Threads, you got to play that game. If you're on Twitter, you play that game. It's not really about you and your approach. It's about, are you playing by the rules of that? And if you do, you're going to grow. And if you don't, you're not going to grow. It's literally, it's as simple as that. It's a bit cynical, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. This is the most important part of the whole podcast. So I like to do this. I think it's a really cool little sort of game. It's overrated or underrated. So I've got 10 things. I'm going to fire them at you. And basically, I just want you to say whether they're underrated or overrated. And just give us a small reason why. Okay.
Sounds fun.
Okay. First one, Christmas films.
Christmas films. Let's go overrated. They are a bit rubbish.
Overrated.
They are a little bit rubbish. Most of them are a bit rubbish.
Okay. I think you're the only person who's going to say that, to be fair. Generally, though, they are a bit crap. Okay. Festive family walks.
That's not something I've ever done, but that sounds brilliant. So I'm going to say underrated. That sounds like something that would be brilliant.
Right, okay. What about falling off the wagon over Christmas in terms of diet, overeating?
I don't think it matters either way. I think it's fine. I think do whatever you want over Christmas, and it's only a day. It's only 2 days. It's going to be fine, like, ultimately.
Yeah, fair enough. Are Arsenal going to win the league this season?
Yes, they are. They are. They're definitely
Are they?
they're definitely underrated. Arsenal. We're doing well this year.
Do you think?
Yeah, we're doing well.
Um, DIY Christmas gifts.
Underrated. I think that's brilliant. I prefer that. I prefer a bit of thought to go into something.
Really?
Mm.
Okay. Okay. That's actually pretty interesting. I've never actually thought of like doing it myself. I just always buy the gifts, to be fair. Um, Social media for coaches.
Overrated. Definitely overrated. Um,
Okay,
I think, do you know
fair
what? And
enough.
I wanted to make this point earlier. I know we're going off piece here, but I think what a lot of online coaches don't realize is that they suddenly go all in, they quit their jobs, and they're like, I'm going to make it big on online coaching. What they don't realize is a lot of people have other jobs as well. And that's why they're so successful, because they have like a job as a nutritionist elsewhere, or they run a different company, or they have an income. And so they can just enjoy the coaching. It's not stressful. Whereas the biggest mistake I see coaches do is just quit too soon and try and go all in. I think that's the worst thing that somebody can do.
Yeah, I get that, and that actually really resonates with me as well. To be fair,
Mm.
it's I was actually, and it's, again we're going a little bit off tangent here, but I was a so people probably know this, but I was a PT, then I was an online coach, and then I was an assessor at the same time. So I was delivering level 2, level 3 PT apprenticeships for lifetime, and then I was also delivering like customer service, team leader, health and safety, all that stuff as well. Um, so when I was online coaching, I actually had that income as well, which it really sort of was a nice dovetail to each other. Really,
Mm.
I had lots of time to do the coaching. I had lots of time to do the assessing. It was great.
Yeah.
I had a really nice balance. Then in COVID, I essentially got furloughed like straight away, basically. So I think lockdown happened in February, didn't it?
Mm.
March, start of March, got furloughed, and I was furloughed for probably 6 months. And yeah, well, actually, it was March, April. Yeah, so it was October when I got made redundant. So there was 6 months period where I was online coaching pretty much full time, and then I was creating tons of content for the coaching. And then my local gym said to me, "Can you create some content for us?" And I was just doing tons and tons of video stuff, loads of video editing, just because it was income basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of like by the end of it, I was like, I enjoy this more than the coaching now. So there was like probably a 6 month period of like I'm actually getting furlough pay, which was like what 50% or
Mm.
something of what your salary was. And then I had this other income coming in. But I don't think if I was furloughed, I would have had the bollocks to actually just do it,
And I don't
essentially.
think it's smart to do that, because then you are really stressed about how many likes your post gets, and you are really stressed about when a client drops off, and you can't. You're too stressed. I think a lot of coaches have side gigs. Maybe they own property, they have businesses, they have a job, they work in person and online. I think that's probably the best way to do it.
I think so. I mean, I know firsthand how hard it is. I mean, even the actual selling of the package, it's like you sell someone an online package, and then the question is kind of like, oh, I don't get to see you. I'm not getting like one to one, like a PT. Might as well just go to a PT. And I think that's like a big objection that like people don't really get it. I mean, like I've got some American clients and stuff, and I mean, it's a bit more commonplace over there to be online.
Mm-hmm.
But over here, I think it's still quite fresh and new. And I think because we're in the space and we talk to coaches all the time and we work with coaches, that it's kind of like it's this like massive industry and this massive niche of online coaching, but it is still fairly new, I think. And there is some, I think it is not, I wouldn't say teething problems because it's a bit past that, but like people still aren't educated massively on online coaching, I think.
Mm.
Whereas we think they are, but actually, um, it's compared to face-to-face personal training, it's still fairly new.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think we just assume that the general population know what we're talking about because we know what we're talking about, when they have no idea what it
Yeah,
means to be an online coach or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I write the emails out, like we were talking about before the podcast started. I write the emails out, and I literally try and dumb it down a little bit. Not in the sense of I want to make people feel stupid, but I just want to make it really easy for people to understand, like really easy.
Mm.
And because I mean, we could get into the psychology of all this and copy and video and all that stuff, but in the sense of um, like talking about email, like you can easily just presume that people know what we're talking about. So, like I could go into the ins and outs of video editing, I could go in the ins and outs of temporal interpolation and all this stuff, and you'd just be like, "What the hell is that?" Like, and only if you're like a video editor would you actually know that. Um, like I always say, a really good example is the law of thermodynamics. People probably heard calorie deficit, all that stuff. But when you talk about the laws of thermodynamics and the the temperature of your body, people don't care. It's like, am I going to get a result out of it?
Mm.
And then I've come to you to lose 2 stone. I'm not into. I don't want to know all the science behind it. Just give me the results, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important for us to know as coaches, but when we're talking to the clients, I think a trap that coaches can fall into is trying to sound too clever to stand out, but actually the person who makes it the most simple for someone to just to follow an easy. It's a simple way to follow a hard process. Is that the way to say it?
Yeah, I think that's the way to say it. I think people just want to know the possibilities, like what will happen if I do what you say, and can I trust what you say, and can I see the direction we're going in? And if those things are in place, then somebody is willing to trust you and trust that you know what you're doing.
Definitely, 100% couldn't agree more. I mean, I mean, when we look at um, like attraction principles, when we talk about like we're trying to market to people and we're trying to get in front of people, it's it's so true. Like I was speaking to you earlier, I've literally tried to, and one of my goals this year was to write better emails and write better copy. And I can be on when people have opted into your email list, for example, or your lead magnet or whatever it is. You can speak to them a little bit more in depth because by definition they are a little bit more interested in what you've got to do.
Mm.
So in the emails, I try to dive a bit more deep than what I would on social media, but still I've got to keep it concise and I've got to keep it simple for someone to understand, because if it goes off on a tangent and it confuses someone, straight away they're going to lose interest, and all that's going to happen is they're going to go to someone else who's going to make more sense to them.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, I could be the perfect coach for them. I'm just confusing someone.
Yeah, and I think people don't want an email in their inbox to teach them something. Like that's not why you open an email. You're not sitting there, scrolling on your phone and think, "Oh God, I want to learn this concept." People expect it in an email. They want to hear about what can they buy from you, what are your services, and oh, cool, can I get it cheaper? And cool, this is going to solve my problem. I think that's why people jump into the inbox.
100%, 100%. I mean, was it Hormones who said it? I can't think now. Adam was like he put so much content out, I can't lose track of it all. But it's like, what is it? Sell in private, um, give people in public, just give value, sell in private. So if someone opts in or if someone shows an interest, then you can sell to them in like say a call, or you can sell to them on email in private. But on social where it's front facing, you just want to build a trust and give value and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a marketing expert. I think there's loads of different ways of doing it, right? You speak to a different marketing expert and they say, no, you always ask for the sale, even on social media, because otherwise people will just enjoy taking the information, but they won't be transitioning into that state of purchasing. So I don't know. All I know is that knowledge doesn't really make much difference. Like I think, I put a lot of content out and people think, oh, your content's so interesting, it's so useful. But I know that what people really need is implementation. So I'm happy to give information away for free because they could really Google this stuff. They could read books, that's what they could get anywhere. I
Yeah,
might package it up in a way that's easier or more applied to their
yeah,
context, but what they really need is help implementing. They need support. They need somebody who will guide them. And I think that's what the pay comes in. That's why I've kind of like steered away from just courses, because I'm like, well, coaches don't have time. They buy loads of courses that they don't complete them. And there's no point just learning about the theory. I'm much more switching to an implementation approach. Like, let's do this together. Let's figure this out. Let's help you in your context with your clients.
definitely. I could, yeah, 100%. What is it? Information's free, implementation for a fee.
Yeah.
I think that's what they say. But just going back to what you said then, on YouTube, I went to VidCon last year, and at VidCon, I was listening to a speaker, and they were saying if you watched every bit of content on YouTube from start to finish, it would take you over 20 years to finish. That fact to me, that blows my mind. And if you like peel the layers off that a little bit, what that translates to is everything you need to literally change your life is at the end of a search engine. Literally. You type it into YouTube. If you want to become a coach, if you want to improve your coaching, if you want to improve the psychology around your coaching, if you want to improve client adherence, if you want to make better content for your business, if you want to have a more relatable approach on social media, if you want to write better copy, if you want to communicate with people better, if you want to have a nice business where you're not really a famous influencer, but you want to have a solid coaching business, all of that literally is at your fingertips. Literally. So if people, so it's not an information problem that people have, because the information is literally all there. Like everything that people could learn from me about video editing, it's on YouTube. If everything that people could learn from you about fitness psychology is probably there in some form on YouTube or on Google, it'll be somewhere where they can access it. But they don't. They don't. So it needs to be, like we said, it needs to be laid out in a simple to follow format with someone who they like and trust to get them that result. So I know, for example, if I was a coach and I had a problem with client adherence, I'd be coming to you because we've built a relationship up over a few years now, actually, where I can go, Ella, I really need help with this. Can you help me? Yes, I've got the perfect program for you. There you go. And it's not necessarily a hard sell then.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. And that's it. And actually, I think people need to hear the same information multiple times. And each time it has a different meaning to it. Like, how many times, there's a few pieces of advice, right? But every time you read the book or hear the advice, it just hits a little bit different. Like, it just sits in a slightly different place. And so, yeah, I agree with that. And I think it is important, picking the people that you trust and learning from them is also really important.
100%. 100%. Can I ask you a question? Do you read books or listen to books or both?
Both. So, audio book on Audible, I'll always listen to fiction stories. That's what I'll do on there.
Okay.
And then I read fiction and I also read non-fiction. What I don't do is I don't listen to non-fiction because it's got like wisdom. I can't like auditory process it and like take note of it as I'm walking. So if it's a book like a non-fiction, I will sit down and read it. But yeah, I do both.
Sorry, I think you broke up there a little bit. Can you just repeat that?
Yeah. So I said I do both. I read and I listen to on Audible. So it depends. If it's a fiction, I'll listen to it. But yeah, I do both.
Oh, amazing. So, in the sense of, I listened to a book called "The Obstacle Is the Way" by Ryan Holiday. It's kind of like a stoicism philosophy kind of book. I don't know if you've read it. I do recommend it. But I listened to that and then I read it, and it just totally hit differently from both ways.
Is it my end?
Oh, sorry, yeah. You're back now.
Is it my end or yours? What's going on?
I'm not too sure.
Who knows?
So, the point that I was trying to say there was that I was listening to this book called "The Obstacle Is the Way" by Ryan Holiday. It's like a stoicism philosophy book. I do really recommend it. It's good. But then I read the book. And it was like totally hit different listening to reading. But it's happened to me the other way around as well, where I've read books and it's kind of gone over my head a little bit, and then I've listened to it and I've been like, shit, that's like fucking mad. And then it's something that is just instantly implemented in, like, whether it's business or personal life. Because my life's chaotic at the best of times. Even before this podcast, I had the baby screaming, like running around the house, running in. I've got presents everywhere. Like it's mad. But then something will just hit. So I'm always really fascinated with how people consume whether it's books or content, because sometimes I'll make a video and it'll be a banger video and it'll really help someone, but actually it's done better on like a blog or an email.
Yeah, because we process information in different ways. We process it auditory when we read it. And so it can be helpful to do it on different avenues. And I think it also needs to be the right message at the right time. People underestimate. People think that you can just read at any point and it's going to you're just going to have that wisdom. Sometimes it depends on where you're at in your life. And then you just pick up a book and it just makes a huge difference. And then you would read it a year later and you think, oh, that's actually quite an average book. And so there's loads of factors that go into it.
Yeah. Do you think that sounds like? Do you think that sounds like personal growth as well? Just like where you're at in your life.
Yeah, for sure. And so I went down this path of wanting to read loads of books. And so, I took reading like a competitive sport and smashing loads of books each year. And I've actually settled on the opposite side, which is that I think we should read less books, but more times. You should read the same book over and over again because you're missing most of the message the first time you read it. You're thinking you're understanding it and you're underlining stuff and you're thinking, oh, that sounds great. But if you was to truly go back and read it a second, third, fourth time, you really start to understand what the author's saying and start understanding that kind of idea.
Yeah. I love that. That's amazing. That's amazing. And I've definitely found that. And I try to consume content from all angles now. So I audio book it. I read before bed, rather than try and be on my phone at the moment. Like I spend so much time on mobile at the moment that I try to just switch it off and read now. But I listen, I consume emails, blogs, downloads, courses. I try to consume everything, but it hits differently. It's such a weird thing that I've read that before, but when someone said it to me, it was like it just hit different. Or do you know what? When I seen it written down on a piece of paper, it just ingrained in my mind more than what it would if someone said it to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like when people
And
say,
that's why when I publish this podcast, for example, yeah, like I'll publish this podcast, for example, and some people will watch it and some people will listen to it on Spotify, and it'll just hit totally different.
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's when people say, it's as when I was working as a sports psychologist, I would say things and people's parents would say to me, oh, I've been trying to tell that to them for ages, but sometimes you just need a different person to tell you something that you've heard a million times for it to hit as well. It's odd how that works.
Yeah, like I know for a fact that if you said something to me, it would have more authority than what if, say, my parents said it to me,
Yeah, it just shows like
because
the
you've got
context.
more authority behind it.
Yeah, that's it. And that goes to show again, it's not just information that matters. It's who delivers the information, how, when they deliver it, in what way.
Definitely, I love that. I love that. Final thing before we go, I'm really, really fascinated around the topic of goal setting, and obviously at this time of year, everyone's thinking about the new year and goals and New Year's resolutions and all that stuff. So if you could give some sort of pointers, I'm not saying go into like the in-depth psychology of goal setting and all that kind of stuff, but as a few pointers for coaches wanting to make a big impact next year, or make more money next year, or work with more clients next year, and they're setting all these like sort of big grandiose goals, like what would you say to like a few little pointers to focus on in terms of just goal setting really?
Okay. Really powerful question. Ask yourself, what would I have to do for 2024 to be a failure? How what would
Okay.
I need to do in 2020 2024 to make sure that I wasn't successful and to make sure that I wasn't happy? And the reason why that's really helpful is sometimes when we're thinking about goals, we just make up this stuff that sounds good, like we should journal every day, we should meditate every day, and we've just plucked that out. Whereas when we really think about what would we do to guarantee failure, then we start getting an indication of our self-sabotaging behaviors. So we might say, I would compare myself to somebody else all the time. I would start an idea, then change it after 2 weeks. If I was going to guarantee failure, I'd be working all hours under the sun and I would never take a break. Okay, cool. So now we know that if you want to be successful next year, the kind of goals that you set need to be around boundaries. They need to be around sticking to things. They need to be around not comparing yourself to other coaches. And then you just implement the practical steps that actually help you to do those things. But I think that reframe is a really powerful way to do it.
Wow. I've never actually thought of it that way. It's almost like It's almost like a reverse engineering of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, I've never actually thought of doing it that way, but that is powerful. That is powerful. The way the way I've always, I suppose the way I've learned it over years of doing it, is imagine your sort of, if you had a canvas in front of you and you could paint the perfect picture of how you want everything to look, and you had, in one corner you had business, in one corner you had social, in one corner you had personal, in the other corner you had I don't know, family, hobbies, whatever it is, and you could just um, throw a load of paint on this canvas and it'd just be the perfect dream scenario. And that was, say, December next year. What are the logical steps you would have to take to make that painting the best it could be? And then you engineer the steps based on that, down to even micro goals, like sort of your daily actions and all that kind of stuff. But actually thinking about it like inversely like that is really powerful, and that's something I'm going to really think about actually.
And it can work in
So thank you
combination.
for
It
that.
works in combination. Like, yeah, the way I like to do it as well is think of like, what is your dream day? And people then get an idea of how they'd like to spend their day, and then you just figure out, right, well, what's stopping me doing that right now, and what would I need to do that would allow me to have an hour in the morning to read? You know, what would I need to do to allow me to finish work at 3, whatever it is that was in your dream day, and then you build that out. And that's the tricky part, because some people aren't necessarily good at planning and figuring out, okay, if I want that in a year, what would I need to achieve in 3 months, in 1 month, in 1 week, in a day? Like, it's quite hard to map that out. That's why it can be helpful to get help. But yeah, that's a useful process.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. I really, really appreciate it. Now, lastly, if anyone wants to find you, or if anyone wants to get involved with what you do, or you want to divulge any sort of information about what's coming out in January, this won't be published till January, by the way. So it'll actually be the first week of January. So if there's anything that you want to sort of talk about or direct people to, I'll put all the links below. But where can people find you and get involved?
Best place is on Instagram at @thefitnesspsych_. You can sign up to my email list there, get a free resource about powerful questions to ask your clients when they're stuck. Then if you want to understand more about working together, there is a program in January. When you're listening to this, it might already be open, and that's a 6-week program that's full on about retention and client adherence and getting those amazing results. And so, yeah, looking forward to seeing some coaches there.
Well, thanks so much for your time, Ella. I really, really appreciate it. I think what we talked about there is going to be massively valuable to a lot of coaches. And I know firsthand the impact that you've had with coaches, because we work together within the Strong Collective. I've seen the work that you do. It's amazing. So, yeah, thanks so much. I really, really appreciate your time. And yeah, it's going to be a massive 2024, and I can't wait.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.